cameras. That's all. I went late, so the army was blocking one other building, so I didn't know exactly what was there. I didn't see any prison cells, but there were two things I heard. One thing I heard is that there was no one there, and the other thing I heard is there were about 20 people, and they said when district attorneys came, they were accompanying them to search for other secret cells.
Now,
and I didn't see any member of the police or security inside the building.
okay, now were you or any of the other protesters looking for any specific files in that building?
No, there's a lot of files. It's very hard to search for a specific file. Lots of them are not really of importance, so it's kind of random search. And someone told me that he got pics of some documents about some person. He's a businessman who owned some ferries that sunk in the Red Sea, and it was a big case in Egypt. So he told me he got pictures from that file, and he told me he got another picture from some about a famous journalist in Egypt.
Okay, sir, thank you. The United Nations plans to send another 2,000 peacekeepers and 2 helicopters to Côte d'Ivoire due to escalating violence in the country. This comes as the head of the African Union, Jean Ping, met the internationally recognized leader of the country, Alassane Ouattara, on Saturday. Ouattara, who has been under UN protection, said he would attend a meeting of African Union leaders in Ethiopia next week. We're now joined live from Washington, D.C. by Tim Irwin, Senior Media Officer at the United Nations Refugee Agency. And Mr. Irwin, this renewed fighting, of course, has resulted in thousands of people, I understand up to 200,000 people being displaced in Côte d'Ivoire. What is the UNHCR doing at the moment?
We're working with local groups, particularly in the commercial hub of Abidjan, where, as you say, there are about 200,000 people who have been displaced by this recent escalation in fighting. Now, many of them have moved to other areas which they consider to be safer. They found shelter with friends and relatives. But there's a really substantial number, maybe 50,000 or so, who are living in buildings and churches, and they're totally stranded. We know of a group of people who are caught up in a church. They don't have food, they don't have water, access to sanitation. And we really call on the combatants in this situation to allow the civilians to leave the area, to go free, and to seek safety in other parts of the area.
Now, of course, there is fighting going on there, and there are these high numbers of people who are internally displaced. Are you managing to get access to people there?
Within Abidjan, it's very, very difficult. There's a certain amount of anti-UN sentiment, which makes it difficult and dangerous for us to go in. We are working with local groups, but the conflict makes it very difficult for any humanitarian organization to get in there. We're hearing reports of houses being looted, of businesses being burned, of bodies in the street. This is a particular suburb of Abidjan, which is home to about 1.5 million people, many of them now displaced and seeking safety in other areas.
Now, have you managed to establish any kind of refugee camps to accommodate people there?
We have, and we have an active camp across the border in Liberia. There are about 40,000 people from Côte d'Ivoire who have crossed into Liberia. But since this recent escalation in the fighting around February 26th, we've seen an additional 30,000 people who have crossed into Liberia seeking safety. So the camp that we have is overstretched, and we are looking at creating another one as this wave of people continues.
Mr. Irwin, thanks for joining us. In Somalia, African Union peacekeepers and government troops are claiming some success against al-Shabaab fighters. The joint forces say they've captured key positions in the north of the capital, Mogadishu. Commanders say they're also now in control of Beled Hawa on the Kenyan border. Dozens of fighters are reported to have been killed in hours of gun battles. But the African Union is also paying a heavy price. It's thought more than 50 peacekeepers have been killed in the past 2 weeks. Italy's Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi says he'll defend himself in court as long as he doesn't have to show up more than once a week. Berlusconi is accused of fraud and embezzlement over the acquisition of television rights for his Mediaset empire. He faces a separate trial in April on charges that he paid for sex with an underage nightclub dancer. Berlusconi denies all accusations. His legal team has asked that the court set aside Mondays for him to appear. 6 people have been killed in a plane crash in western Russia. The State Emergency Ministry says those killed were 4 Russian crew members and 2 pilots from Myanmar. The Antonov An-148 was on a training flight when it came down near Belgorod province, 600 kilometers south of Moscow. No official information has been given out on the cause of the crash, but one witness said the aircraft was missing a wing in the moments before the crash. Europe's socialist leaders are proposing a new plan to strengthen the Eurozone economy. They're demanding the European Council provides better terms for the Ireland and Greece bailouts. They say more support has to be given to countries in financial difficulty.
We will not allow any country in Europe to default, to go down, or whatever you prefer to call it. We are here with one brand, which is solidarity, with one understanding, which is we have a common future and a common destiny.
Still ahead on Al Jazeera, funding the Gaddafi regime. We look at how millions of oil dollars are still flowing into Tripoli's coffers. And find out what links Hollywood, or the Hollywood blockbuster Avatar, to a Canadian campaign to save an ancient rainforest.
Hello once again, welcome to another look at the international forecast, and we've got some very stormy weather making its way across the eastern third of the United States. Look at this massive line of thunderstorms, chances of some tornadoes down into southern areas as we go on through the latter part of this weekend, and that really wet weather brings with it the risk of flooding right up the eastern seaboard. Yet more snow to come towards New England, just through New York, upstate New York, to that eastern side of Canada. Cooler air coming in behind once again. We'll see temperatures in Chicago struggling to reach 3 degrees Celsius as snow drives its way across the northern plains. And the mountain states also seeing some snowfall. Rain there stretching as far south as northern parts of California. Temperatures in LA will struggle to reach 19 degrees Celsius. You come further south and we have got a decent amount of dry and bright weather until we get down into the Caribbean. Just around southern parts of Mexico, we could see some heavy showers through the Yucatan Peninsula. For the West Indies itself, it's fine, it's dry, lovely sunshine here. Temperatures typically now getting up to around 27 or 28 degrees. We've got plenty of sunshine too into central parts of Europe. It remains wintry over towards the east, but still very wet and windy for the southeastern corner.
He's taken stolen goods and he's now dumping them onto the world without any sort of consideration for consequences.
From people making the news.
If the North will be saved a lot of trouble, I think it is important that they should come together.
To those it affects.
We do accept that there was very bad mistakes made in our banking area.
Behind the headlines.
Most South Koreans are not interested in reunification.
Is the inside story. At this time on Al Jazeera.